South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
A full desk here today on a Friday, a Free Throw Friday. And that, welcome in. It is Sports by the Book Free Throw Friday. I'm Jeff Parles. Chris Andrews is here. Vinny Magliulo is here. Jimmy Vaccaro is here. And in about 90 seconds, Jimmy, I think you know this guy pretty well.
Oh, that one on the...
Right on the cover.
Oh, it's him?
Yeah.
My treasured brother. 6 years older than me. We've had a pretty good life together. So it's great to see him.
Sonny will be with us in a moment. Of course, Legend and Souls, the memoir of an American original, right in my hands right now.
There it is. Yeah, finished it yesterday. Didn't take long. About 4 sessions of reading, and a terrific book, a great read. And, I know a lot of the people involved, even the ones I don't know personally, we certainly know of. So.
Great story. Can't wait to get into it with Son. It's going to be fantastic.
For me, I don't read that often, but I did. And I'm glad that I did.
Yeah.
And especially, obviously, people who grew up back there knew Sonny through the basketball. But like with me, it was simply that, I was fortunate to have a brother who was 6 years older than me, but he didn't shut me out when it came to when he started the basketball stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was just a renegade that he would take me to tournaments. He would take me to places that a lot of people would be. Obviously, who talked about the basketball. And when he first mentioned, Round Ball Classic, I had no idea what he was talking about. I remember going downtown where Al Abrams was the big sportscaster there. He helped Sonny get it started with. But quickly, I'll take 30 seconds of your time. The best thing that ever happened to my brother was my mother and my father. They never interfered with two renegades. When I say that, not like normal jobs after college, not like the normal job to support a family. No, that was done, but it was secondary. And Sonny, obviously then, when I got to be around 12, 13, 14, he would start taking me to places that had the tournament. Chris, you remember names like this, Sharon and Farrell and Newcastle.
I went to a lot of those same tournaments.
Yeah.
So we ready to get Sonny on?
Yes, we will. We're going to take a 1-minute break. We're going to make sure that we have everything squared away, and we'll have Sonny after a quick break right here at Sports by the Book Free Throw Friday.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance, Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
Welcome back in. It is Sports by the Book Free Throw Friday, and it's a very special Free Throw Friday for us. Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo, Jimmy Vaccaro. I'm Jeff Parles, and now joining us, a very familiar face to the guy to my left. His older brother, Sonny Vaccaro, joins us right now. The book available now, Legends and Souls, the memoir of an American original. The book in my hand right now. And there he is in the bottom right, Sonny Vaccaro. Sonny, thank you so much for being with us today.
This is a thrill for me to be with my friends, with 40 years of relationship with Michael Gaughan and his casinos, my whole adult life, and looking at Chris and my brother obviously and Vincenzo. I've known this was a blessing for me to do this at this particular time in my life. So I'm looking forward to the questions, the answers, and the laughs we'll have, I'm sure.
Well, Sonny, we're thrilled to have you with us. And I tell you, as I sit here and look at it, it's like going back in time, and here we are recounting and giving you the opportunity to recount an incredible story. And maybe the best place to start, Sonny, would be, what was the moment when you realized and you decided to put this amazing story and this great collection of experiences in your life into print?
Vinny, that's good. I think subconsciously I started this story a long time ago when I first got fired, by Nike, a long time ago. I always thought I'd do it, but I always delayed it because I had something next to do, Vinny. Mm-hmm. So my life carried on, but the thought was in there, and my wife Pam, who everyone knows, kept records of everything I did. We basically have boxes from years and years ago. So where I actually wanted to finish the project, unfortunately came at a bad time for our family. Pam's youngest sister, Mary Jo, and I know everyone watching or at the casino knows who Mary Jo is.
Yes.
She was the youngest of the four girls, and she was a writer and a very intelligent and a great job with a major company. And she suggested to me, why don't we start this? Let's do this. I was out of it then. I was finished with fighting the NCAA and all that sort of stuff. So 6 years ago, probably, we put it back on the burner. And unfortunately, she passed away after we were done. We were 99% finished with the book. And Pam and I were convinced to do it. Well, Mary and a ghostwriter who helped her put this together, Max, made such a good plan. I then made a call to a good friend of mine that I know that everyone there knows, yes. Armin Katayan. Mm-hmm. I knew Armin for almost his lifetime. I remember him back in the, at the 88 Olympic Games, he was working for CBS or somebody. So he and I had a relationship, didn't always feel each other. And really, since he was an investigative reporter, sometimes we never agreed upon a lot of things, but our relationship continued. So that takes me to the present. So about 9 months ago, Mary Jo is gone, and Pam said, let's finish this thing. So I called upon Armin after putting everything together, going over with the Max, the ghost, and we start going over everything I did in my early life to get to this point. And so hopefully we're going to get to the questions and answers I'll do during the show. But Vince, I just want to tell you, an easy way. This was inevitable sometime, but the button was pushed over something that I couldn't overcome, her passing, and I had to tell my story. I just had to because, as you know, first of all, being involved with gambling like I was, being close to people like you, knowing a guy like Jack Franzi and Michael Gaughan were verboten. I mean, I remember when all of us in that room and listening, like it was a sin for me to be out there playing cards or
That's right.
the biggest sin for me, to know that Jack got me out here and Michael sort of adopted Pam and I. So I want to leave it to you guys now to lead me wherever you want to take me.
Well, yeah, I got, Sonny, I met you in 1968. So that's 56 years ago. That's how long I go back with you and Chauncey. And, from the time I met you, you were passionate about this, about how the NCAA and the powers that be were screwing these kids and making a fortune off them. And yet here you are, 56 years later, you still had that passion, and you finally got, first of all, you got the book written. That's really secondary. You got the Ed O'Bannon case. I mean, this is gonna echo through the world of sports. I mean, for the foreseeable future. And this does not happen without Sonny Vaccaro. Now, I mean, of course, you go through it in the book, but why don't you tell our listeners exactly how did that come about?
Well, that came about as 50 years of frustration, Chris, because I grew up with young athletes. That's what I did for a living. Everything, the Dapper Dan, they were kids that I never knew, parents that I had never met. I was 24 years old when I thought of that game and went to Pat the next year. So by the time the game was played, I was 25, not that much older. Why, to answer your question, well, I owe my life to the mothers and fathers and coaches and people who are around these kids to trust their children with me. So I'm sitting here today with a wonderful life because of those kids. As I went through my life, starting with the Dapper Dan, doing a camp up in, you guys know, the Big Ten camp, you knew, Chris. My life followed, and I earned a living off of these sort of things. I earned a living by, later working for Nike and the other shoe companies. But what never forgot me, what never left my mind, that's why I mean my mind forgot me, never was the abuse of the athlete. So as I'm climbing the ladder, Pam and I are married. Where were we married, right? With Michael. He sent the food over, and he that's the Walker thing. I left the thing with Jack being there with his family. I left all that in '84 when Pam and I got married to continue another life. And that life showed me the hypocrisy, not only of what America was doing, but specifically what a group of people with no assets at all concerning the athlete, I mean assets, they never thought that these kids were anything other than a feeding line. They told them they were amateurs. That was just a word conceived by them. When they used that word a long time ago, they stopped these kids from doing what every young person or any person in the world with the ability to do a job, whether it be in the Westinghouse or whether it be some sports thing. They took that away from them and said they couldn't earn. Well, Brandon Jennings was the first one time I rebelled, Chris. Remember that he couldn't get in school. They made, they wanted him to give up his whole year at Arizona that year. And Brandon, by the grace of God, watched the television or a radio show, listened to it, and he knew who I was because of the camp, and he knew me that way. He called me, and he asked me, could I do something? Well, the only thing available at Brandon Jennings' time was Europe. I knew that they were paying people in Europe to play, and I managed to get him to go to Italy. Brandon led to all the future problems that I had with the NCAA until we got to O'Bannon. But without Brandon Jennings, there's the greatest thing I ever did on earth, other than my family, was getting paid for these kids in the O'Bannon case. So, Chris, to answer that, my journey was a payback. I owe people who are not living, some of them aren't living anymore. I know athletes who trusted me, and I certainly know the grace that I've been shown by people that, the lawyers and everything else. I said, I got to pay back. So Pammy and I took that journey together, and they gave me the greatest professional satisfaction I'll ever have is these kids are getting paid in the O'Bannon case.
Oh, and Sonny, as I said, that's going to echo through the foreseeable future. God knows how long. And like I said, that doesn't happen without Sonny Vaccaro. But I've known you, like I said, I've known you since 1968. I know above all things, I'm a million things about you. You are highly principled. And I used to joke, and I probably said it to you. I definitely said it to Chauncey a couple of times. If the NCAA had that kid that you screwed somehow, they would parade that kid up and down Fifth Avenue or Mission, Kansas, or wherever you want to go. I always say, they don't have that guy because he doesn't exist. Not to get too far into the trial, Sonny, but I did have something when I read your book, which I find just fascinating. And even if you're not a huge sports fan, you got to read this book. So Michael Harsfield was the one attorney, okay?
Yes.
And he didn't know much about sports. And then the judge, Wilkins, seems like they didn't know that much about sports. This is, again, my impression. You, of course, were right there. It seems like if you didn't know that much about sports and you saw what the NCAA is doing, the first thing you have to say is like, what? How did they get away with this for all these years? And then you had Bill Isaacson, who did know sports. I think that really helped the case because it's so ridiculous what these people had done for, almost 100 years.
Yeah. Well, I got lucky because finding the lawyers was recommended to me by a friend of mine named Rob Ades, who was a lawyer in Washington, D.C. In a major way, he was like, part of my life also, and as you see in the book. But I wouldn't have known those lawyers. I was introduced to these people, and they were willing to take them on. Let's take them on. I'll never forget what Michael said.
That's a great line.
They had the greatest background. And I think the strength of it all is that's who they were, lawyers and not fans. So that got me to Ken Feinberg and splitting the money and all these stuff. But go ahead, Chris. But it was an accident again, another improbable event that I would end up with some of the greatest lawyers, especially for the antitrust in my life, who I never knew existed before Rob introduced me.
Well, I want to yield to some of these other guys, but again, I found that's just fascinating, really.
It is fascinating and it's amazing. And to Sonny's point also that we were so taboo with the NCAA for a long time. Yeah. Meanwhile, they would talk to us, behind the scenes to validate the legal aspect of sports wagering and things. But that's definitely another show. But Sonny, I want to touch base. You mentioned Brandon Jennings, and you had such a solid and great rapport with so many players who owe so much to you, but you also had great rapport with a lot of coaches. Wondering, were there any coaches that kind of resented the fact that you were directing such talent in like a Brandon Jennings overseas? Did that come, to a point where some of them felt that they wanted you to kind of steer players to their particular programs?
Well, let's leave out the steers players because that never could happen.
Right.
What they were offended by was that that I was taking a venue away from them.
Yeah.
And the venue was these athletes had another choice in life. So I can say the majority of people who work for universities, and I'll give you some shocking names, were my friends and ended up my friends, but they can never back me, Vince, because of one thing. They worked for the university. Their job depended on the employees, which would have been, the athletes. So they were my friends, but they were not my advocates. They were on the other side of the fence. And one of them, and I can name every guy in the world, and start because I had 84 of them under contract for Nike when I left, and they were 84 of the most. But the one that I'll even go on is John Thompson, because we all know that John is, very close to everybody out there, and know you kids probably certainly knew Michael, and he was, one of my 5 best friends in life, really, in that world. There's no question. I love Georgetown. All those kids played in the Dapper Dan, Chris. All of Georgetown's kids always played there. So John was part of it. John never believed in what I was doing, whether it was with Georgetown or whatever, in the beginning. But as I went through life and we got through everything, all those, I got calls, guys, and Vince, for a good question. I got calls now from a lot of the guys, aren't here and whatever. But before John passed away, he actually said, and I want your audience to hear this, I made a mistake. Sonny was right all those times. And when I get, these guys that are now going back now, I don't want to mention their names, they're all retiring now. Everybody's retiring. They've been around for 10, 25, 50 years earning money. But now the system is different. So these guys now are retiring, and they're basically saying, what are they saying? I can't compete in this world anymore. These kids have options. They actually want to be earning money. Well, that ending to some of my friends just put an exclamation point on what we're talking about today.
Right.
I was right about the kids, right?
Absolutely.
They can't play the game without them. And I think that's how I want to end that question with you, Vince.
Beautiful.
Sonny, when you came up with the idea, and again, knowing you all these years, I know you've always been a rebel and a contrarian, but when you first came up with the idea of paying coaches, people had to think you were nuts.
Well, they would have been more nuts, Chris, if they would have known. I swear to God Almighty, when I went in there, when Nike asked me this question, and I'm just starting at Nike, I'm doing the colleges, and I have nothing to do with the pro side of it at all. And so at that time, they wanted to get into the college ball, youth basketball. And I said to Phil Knight and Rob Strasser, and I'll never forget this day verbatim, I said, well, you got to pay the coaches to wear the shoes. And they said, one of them said exactly on which one, he said, pay the coaches. Is that legal? I said, hell yeah, it's legal. They said, I'd pay the players. I'd give the money to the players and give them the free, but we can't. We can't do that because you can't pay these players. So the irony of the whole thing, my mind always said to me, it's the kids that sell the shoes. It's not the coaches.
Right.
But what could the coaches do, Chris? What did they do? They put the shoes out. What's a kid going to do? Turn down a free shoe? They put them in the shoe. And the legend started right there. They knew what they had to do. So all these pious people got to understand that what they were doing was criminal. What I suggested about the athlete, as you guys know right now, I mean, it's upside down in this whole world. But you know what? The good thing about it, the game's going to go on. The tournament will start again next week. It's been good. They're trying to enlarge the tournament to 99 teams next year. Why? Because now the kids have an option of not going one and done or not going to, pro ball or go to the D League or something. They can stay in college, play for their college team of choice, but be paid.
I think there's, and I'm going to ask you this next, but before we go on, I'm going to say there's some repercussions that I think really can help the college game, football and basketball, give these kids a chance to develop. I mean, a lot of kids, you're 18, 19, you're not physically mature yet.
No, you're not.
But you have a chance to maybe refine your game, stay an extra year, and still make from 100,000 to a couple million to stay in school. And again, I think it's great options for the kids. And one thing you always said, there's no restrictions on the coaches. They jump all over the place. I mean, that's supposed to be the game. It's really not. It's the kids. Anyway, I don't want to take everybody's time, but I do want to ask you, we're in the early phases of this, NIL and paying the players. How do you see this evolving or progressing in the next few years?
I think, I think the South Point will have an opportunity to sponsor a team. What I'm saying is going to be open to business.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you guys, that's who's going to do it. There will be, I don't believe, I hope I live long enough. You guys are going to be around a long time. Write this down for you. Sonny says in 5 years, the NCAA will be gone.
Oh,
They'll
wow,
be run by businesses. Companies will run these teams. They will hire professional people to do all the legwork and earn the money together. So there won't be, and there will be free agency because these kids will again be treated like they were working at the Westinghouse, Chris. They can go leave a job, leave the South Point and go somewhere else and get a job. But it'll be But it won't make a difference to the fans. What do the fans want to do? Watch a good competitive game. But if Team A can continue this kid for a year or 2 or 3 years, that goes back to going to UNLV, going to, whoever they were going to. But they'll be compensated. And God forbid something happens to them. God forbid.
Right.
They'll have a financial background in their in their pocket, in their back pocket, with maybe a couple $100,000 that they wouldn't have had. And I want to leave this because you brought me into this. The problem I saw all the years in my life was a lot of these kids got hurt. A lot of things happened, or they even played 4 years at X school or Y school, but they weren't good enough to play the pro league that they were excellent in doing, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, I don't care. And they didn't get an education. And they didn't get an education. Why can't we admit this after all these years? Everyone in where you're at the casino tonight, you know all that, and you know some of the kids that may or may not have gotten it. That's the other thing we never bring up. Education was verboten, in the sense, if they just were an athlete. I'm so pleased with how it's going right now that I'm in a good state to almost accept anything.
And Sonny, it's so true what you're saying, and but the byproduct of it also is not just on the men's side. Speak a little bit about how it's impacted the ladies' side, right? Which was way overdue, and as you know, as a father of both a son and a daughter, and Chris as well, and Chauncey. I mean, the women I think are going to benefit from all of this as well, and I know you're a big advocate of that.
Well, you took me into my most popular topic the last 6 weeks has not been talking about the guys from Duke or Florida or the kids who are really good going in the draft. The question I've been getting from female writers and other writers are, what do you think of the change in women's basketball? So I have an opinion of that, Ben.
Sure.
My opinion is it happened by accident. Remember 3 or 4 years ago when the first girl from the team that was on the NCAA, they were playing the NCAA, and I don't know her name or the team, but they complained about the facilities.
Right.
They went to an NCAA game and there was no shower. Yep. They had a bag for lunch, for a dinner or whatever. The girls were abused their whole life in every sport. They were very, very much abused. I mean, so that brought everything to attention. But then what did we have? We had this vision. We had this thing. And all of a sudden, it appeared. It's the same I'm going to say to your audience today. It's who Michael Jordan was to me. Prior to Michael, we had great, great basketball players. You all know that. You can name them. Magic, Bird. There are 1,000 great basketball players before 1984. But they were subjected to all the other rules and everything. They had their own shoes. They never had their own, whatever it was, their own. But then Caitlin Clark came along. Yeah. And just like the Swifties and Taylor Swift. Now, I know you guys think, what the hell is Sonny talking about the Swift? Well, that's what happens when you have a person that the youth just is attracted to. You can do it in anything in the world, but you have to have the right song, the right story, the right movie, or the right athlete. And Caitlin came along at the right time, and she was good, and her team was good, and she opened the doors for the whole thing. That does not mean that there were not other girls, Sue Bird and all those girls in the early ones, that don't mean weren't capable. They didn't have that it thing like Michael had it to me that day. Caitlin opened and women's basketball will never suffer again. And women's hockey, tennis, badminton, I don't care. The door is now open in this country that we live in. The female athletes in good shape.
Wonderful.
Well, I think that's fantastic. Anything that gives us, I could say very selfishly, anything that becomes popular enough to give us something else to bet on, I'm all in favor of that.
Can we bet under the 5 years on the NCAA?
Sonny, I wrote that down. NCAA in 5 years, and after seeing what they've done virtually my whole life, virtually your whole life. And, you were one of those guys, Sonny. And again, I recommend it in the book. You got hurt. You were a great athlete. Yeah. You got hurt. There goes your athletic career. You could have been at Westinghouse or U.S. Steel or whatever in Braddock. But instead you kept on because you had a coach, an advocate who kept you on in various positions. And look at the career you've had. And who knows how many other kids were denied that opportunity just by happenstance. And by happenstance, you were lucky. And listen, all of us are lucky, whoever's successful in life. Oh, you think I wasn't lucky to have Uncle Jack or Michael Gaughan? Of course I was. Anyway, I do want to switch. I want to talk about the movie for a minute. Matt Damon, I thought, he doesn't really look like you, but he really captured your spirit. I think, between him and Ben Affleck, who directed it, and whoever the writers were, I wasn't that familiar with them, but they really captured your spirit, and, again, your rebelliousness, your innovative mind and all that. I mean, do you have a good feeling about that movie and how you were portrayed in that?
And professionally, that was the best thing that happened to me, because what the movie did is what I couldn't do. Tell parts of the story, but give me solid entree into that world. The producer, Peter Guber, is one of the biggest producers. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you do. He owns 25% of the Golden State, 25% of the Dodgers, and he's had 17 Academy Awards. Peter Guber and a young guy named Alice Convery, who was he was an intern when I first did Soul Man. They did the docu on me, and the same company did it. And he was around me, but I never knew him until he started writing about me personally and what he knew I did. But I have to say, what Peter Guber did, he took me, Pam and I drove to Beverly Hills and spent a day with him and his whole staff. And he told me what he was going to do. And I was disappointed most of my life, because no one ever wanted to confront Nike. And I'll never forget this. Pam and I spent a day at his home, saw all his Academy Awards and all that stuff. And 15 people were there, his staff. And he said, Sonny, he said the first thing, The Last Dance, Chris, just go tell you that documentary that Michael did. Yeah. I did 3 hours. 3 hours of. They had me. They questioned me. I gave 3 hours of my life, and I knew they wouldn't use it, and they used 30 seconds. I was very, very skeptical that this would ever happen again, because they cut me out entirely, and they were, and everyone bought into that. That was the biggest trick in the world. They left me out of Michael's life, so I didn't think it would ever be done. And Peter Guber, who had part of that story, John Weinbach, the man who did Soul Man, also helped put together that, The Last Dance. So we're down there, and Mr. Guber looks at Pam and I, and he looks at all his people, and Sonny, I'm going to tell you, they're going to call me, they're going to ask me about it, Nike's going to question me, a lawyer's going to give me a call, but I'm going to tell them, I'll give it my best thought, and we're going to make a great movie. What he told me that day, and apparently he had very much faith in himself because he was an important man, we're going to make this movie. And when we left there, Pam and I knew would be part of a good organization. Go to Matt and go to Ben and Viola, who played Michael's mother. I had no part of picking the cast. I had no part of writing the script. Alex wrote the script. What Mr. Guber wanted me to do was make sure that Matt Damon knew everything about Sonny Vaccaro. So he then called me. We did these video things here for an hour and a half. When Matt first called me, we went over my background. He was prepared. He had the right questions. They invited Pam and I to spend a whole day on the set, screening down in Southern California. We spent the day with everybody. I saw how they made up the old offices. They took me to the designers. They let me listen to the music for 5 minutes. I knew they shared everything with me. They couldn't have been nicer. And Matt and I, then when we went on the promo thing, once the movie was done before the premiere, we did the lineup. You know what that is? They line you up with all these interviews across the country, and I mean they were the top shows in America. Radio shows, television shows, and Matt and I did it. So we had a bond. He was a great. The first thing out of his mouth, guys, was, "Sonny, I just want to tell you, I'm a Boston Celtic fan, but I'm a Boston man. So I knew, everybody at all the schools, all the teams and whatever. I knew where Patrick Ewing. I went to the same high school as Patrick Ewing. So he straightened me out. He is a true sports fan and someone who'd retain what I was asking. So to say to you now about Matt, I couldn't have been more blessed. There could have been other great, I'm sure there are, whittling, but he wanted it. He was just finishing Oppenheimer, the movie. Just so I put that. But they said, we'll be done with this. And Peter Goober said, we're going to be finished with this in like 4 months. We're going to do this damn thing. Matt came aboard because Ben obviously is his best friend. He gave up that, and we became friends. We do admire. I mean, obviously there's attachment we'll never forget, but there couldn't have been a better person for me because he understood my life and our game.
Sonny, this isn't so much a question, but a comment, because you touched on it, and it's certainly it's woven into the book. Your love and appreciation and enjoyment and prowess with gambling, like all of us. How much did those instincts help you? Not only at Nike, at Reebok, and even with the movie and everything. I mean, there's always something you take away from, whether it's a poker game, a dice game, or betting on a ball game or something. But I love the way you wove the gambling part of your life and how it impacted you. If you want to comment on that.
Well, the best thing is impacting my brother, too, also, because the gambling took care of his life. But it's because of our parents. I mean, I grew up gambling. I grew up, learning how to play cards or throw the dime against the wall and, shoot the marbles. Everything was a gamble every day in Trafford. Everybody gambled. There was a beer garden and a gambling house. The story about me and Woody, I asked my father, Daddy, why do you play with Woody? Everyone knows he cheats. And I swear to Jesus. And my dad said, because I know he cheats. Well, that answers your question, Vince. What gambling did to me and why I was able to go with Pat DeCesar and Johnny Mike and drive across the country. I brought that up to Pat and Johnny. They my two best friends, and we drove. I just wanted to go play poker at the Dunes. That's a true story. I didn't know about you can bet baseball or that crap and all that. I just wanted to play poker against guys who were supposed to be good pokers. And I went out there with my bankroll of $500, and we upfronted the money to pay the things and all that stuff. I had about $500. That was a hell of a lot of money in the 1960s, though. So we have to admit that. But I had a hell of a lot of money. But to go to your point, Vince. Everything in my life is, everything in all our lives is a gamble. What I use to the best of my abilities, but I just use it naturally. It was things that I taught. You're looking at a player. You guys know. I mean, everyone on this staff right here. There were customers that came to your window one day and wanted to do something in a hurry or whatever hell it was, and you made a call to somewhere else or you did something else. Well, that's what gambling does. It makes you aware of everything.
There you go.
I knew gambling better than I knew, ABCDs, because that's what I was taught. That's what I grew up with. And also, I knew what people thought of gambling. Let's go into this, Vincenzo. Let's go into this now for 5 seconds.
Sure.
Gambling back east, Chris, most of the people were part of the people. We know who those people were. We had, our best friends were those people, but they were our best friends. They were part of our life. They were just like the grocery store guy. In fact, some of them might have been the grocery store guy. But there was one thing we learned: just be goddamn honest about it.
There you go.
Just understand, put it in your mind, and don't let it happen to you. So, Vince, this is what I'm carrying at 85 years old. When I elected to do this, and you all know Pammy, I had the best partner in the world. She I mean, she's obviously, the public know what I'm talking about. She's very much younger than me. She went all in. That's what she did. She went all in. Sonny, let's quit our jobs. We're making pretty damn good money. Let's go on the road. Let's talk for nothing. Why? Because we want to share what those lives gave to us. Gambling, I was a winner in gambling, guys. I may have not won all those dang bets, and I certainly lost a hell of a lot of them. But I won those bets with gambling. It put me here talking to you.
Excellent.
Well, that's great. Jimmy, I think you have a question for your brother.
First of all, I listened to all this, and obviously what I've heard my 79 years of life is like I could listen to it all the time, and I have. I never, ever stopped my brother because obviously, being around him. But here's one thing that just shows you what we were like and what happened. They were getting married in about a week or two, and they were all staying at Caesar's Palace with George Raveling and all that, whatever. And Jimmy Delsigner, one of our friends from Youngstown, Ohio, I called him. I said, Jimmy, here now everybody's at the Barbary Coast. And I said, here's $1,000. Go shoot some craps. If we win, we'll give it to Pam. Not Sonny. We'll give it to Pam. I give Jimmy Delsigner $1,000. He won $30,000 off of the $1,000 I gave. God. Jimmy come around. He man, there all the fleas were around him too, trying to get a little bit of whatever. I says, give me $15,000. He gave me $15,000, and I give it to Dave Lip or somebody to give to go over to make sure Pam got the money. Sonny didn't get the money. Pam got the money. So here we are all these years later, and those things happen. I won. I won't even tell you the figure because it's breathtaking. What I won playing bar boot one night. But here's my fabulous brother. He only gave me half the money to hold. He said, no, we got to think about what we're doing with it. We went to, ready, Chris? We went to Turtle Creek to pick up the rest of the money, and Sonny came and he was writing down who got what. But you know what? It's been lovely like that ever since. So Pam, did you use the 15?
I'm sure she did.
I'm sure it went
you could have, or you could have not. But that was our life. He said playing Muda is like an Italian game that everybody played on Sunday. Playing cards in my mother and father's cellar with a big steel furnace, burn it, and it was unique. But I'm glad my brother said it again, so you people could hear that. Thank you.
I want to throw a quick thing in, Sonny. I don't even know if you know this, but when you were marrying Pam, and we knew Pam and Renee, all of us guys, and they got a lot of people question, boy, Sonny, this young girl's marrying Sonny. My mother, and I'm not joking, the first one I knew of, she looked at me and she goes, that girl is the best thing that could ever happen to Sonny. And I was, oh, wow. Okay. I mean,
we talk about your mother.
We know it, Sonny.
That's a true story, ladies and gentlemen.
You finding that young lady was one of the best things you ever happened in your life. Among all your other accolades, you marrying her was one of the great things.
That was a win.
By the way, I know the boxman who was on that game.
Was that you?
It was me. And Sonny greeted me with the typical, hello, Vincenzo. It was great. It's a fantastic story. I tell you, Sonny, thank you, so much for your time. We can go on. I got
a couple more things
but I want you. I want you. I just want to make sure we have them.
I got to tell you, this is gold.
When it's our show, we can do whatever we want.
We own the show. We can do whatever we want. First of all, again, just a comment. You got Benny Tin Cup's name in the book. That's unbelievable. You got that's fantastic. Hambone I expected, but Benny Tin Cup I didn't. So Sonny, what is next? Is there going to be like a Sonny Vaccaro library or a museum of some sort of thing where we could see all these things like firsthand, the news articles and all that?
Well, you know what, Chris, good question, and I'm glad it's your audience, so here first time, I guess, is Pam and I have talked to two major universities for the last 5 years. They're very interested in my papers. They're very well known, and we're honored to do that. And just today, Pam and I went over it again. We figure we got 3 more weeks of the tour for the book, and then we're going to do it. I pray that can happen. Not for the vanity or me being whatever, but I think what's in a lot of my papers and what's in this book that I've written, the one thing I'd like to see come out, if you believe in yourself, if you don't let things stop you, you can do anything. And let me say this, Vinny, before you shut me off, okay?
No, not at all.
Let me say this. the friends we grow up with aren't necessarily the friends we end up with in our lives. You have good friends or part of your life, and then something, whatever. You move town, you go somewhere else. The business partners or the school or the job you have doesn't have to be inside a business, and places you earned a living on don't necessarily, those people aren't around, or that job's not there anymore. I faced these things in a more public way. So I went through those and a few other things. At the end of my life, and I'm closer to the end than I was at the beginning, okay, I'm 85. What I want to say to your audience here is you're the only one in control. And if you can do something to let at least the truth according to you, the person who was denied whatever it was that this person thinks. And if he tells the truth and he's not afraid of the truth, write a book. And in my book, Vinny, you can take all the odds you want. There's not going to be a mistake in there that wasn't an honest mistake, because I'm not afraid of anything in that book. I'm not afraid because my wife and HarperCollins and they have liabilities also. They didn't want me saying things that weren't true, to exaggerate where somebody sues us. That's not happening. I believe everything in there, like I said, could be a misspell of a word or So I'm telling your audience today, do it the right way and don't be afraid of what you did, and you win this game of life.
Well, to me, but you made my point and answered the next question or series of questions, Sonny. I mean, to me, this is not just a book; it's really a triumph in overcoming things, right? Because our lives are full of peaks and valleys, right? And it's how everybody, how you handle your success, other people's successes, but then there's those lows that you overcome. And to your point, to me, the fact that you give an example of self-confidence and belief in your principles and all of those values, that's what this book is. And that's why I would encourage anyone to pick it up. And I know that you can back up. Oftentimes you read something, right? You see a movie and somebody's always, picking it apart and saying this and that, what is and what isn't. There's no doubt in my mind that everything in this book is backed up and is factual. So I would encourage folks to do that for certain. And I love your point about that determination. To me, it's an exercise and a lesson in triumph, no question.
Well, I could think of a lot of other things, but I'd love to just have dinner with Sonny. We have about 3 hours so we can talk about some of these things.
We're getting greedy.
I know.
Why not?
Chris, let me say one thing. Okay? I want to look my brother in the eye right now and tell him how proud I am of him, how he overcome Trafford also in the journey. And I also want to say a special thanks to Jack Franzi, Uncle Jack, as you kids called him, because I wouldn't have been here, Chauncey wouldn't have been here, and you kids wouldn't have been here.
Definitely.
Lives would have been changed if Jack wouldn't have come here. And I want to tell you that. And I'll tell you what, the guy in the lifeboat was Michael Gaughan.
Mm-hmm.
He once got here.
Yes.
Well, it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Well, I do want to say, too, before we wrap up, you were such a huge part of my life. I mentioned you a lot in my first book. I got another book coming out shortly. You're featured in that. I mean, Sonny went to the NIT with Sonny Vaccaro every year. I went to the Big East tournament with Sonny Vaccaro. I went to St. Francis of Loretto to see players.
Oh my God!
I went to Johnstown and I had Gergerich in here. We were reminiscing about some of these that I remembered. I'm 15, 16 years old, but these things make such an impression on your life. And I've just told everybody how lucky I was. And again, I remember, and I'm not going to go too far into the story, but I remember one time we showed up, South Carolina was number one in the country. They were playing Pitt. I want to say it's 67, maybe a little later. Me and Zach just showed up. We didn't have tickets. Sonny grabbed us. Where are we sitting? We're at the press table. We're at mid-court. Mid-act, two 12-year-old kids, you know? And, I mean, that was what I got out of I mean, I was so spoiled in life, and a lot of it had to do with knowing Sonny.
I'm glad you brought up tickets. You guys, where's the crew? We have the picture?
What do you got?
Post the picture.
What do you got?
I'll show you. Look in the top right corner of this picture, and I don't know if Sonny can see this picture. This is the Lexington Herald-Examiner from 1985, the Final Four. And the headline is, "Can Memphis slip the Big East bear hug?" St. John's, the Miracle Villanova team, and Georgetown. And that ticket, which, of course, as my wife knows, I throw nothing away. I'm a squirrel. Okay. Is hanging in my house. That ticket came from Sonny, and he said to us guys, okay, if you guys can get to Lexington, I'll get you in the game. And that's the ticket stub from it. Now, Lexington does not have a lot of hotel rooms even today. So back in 1985, they had even less. It was like spring break. We had 8 guys in a room, but we had tickets to the Final Four in Rupp Arena. So, Sonny, that's just a little piece of history there, my friend.
I got another one. I went to Seattle one year for the Final Four. I didn't have a room. I didn't have anything. I just walked in, and Sonny says, "This is the coach's hotel. Make up a school. Tell them you're the coach." So I said, "Well, I'm the coach of Robert Morris." They didn't know. I mean, I didn't want to say I'm from North Carolina, you know. And they said, "Oh, okay, so coach, good. Here you go. I'm at all the coaches' activities."
I'm going to dispel one of the rumors.
Get closer to the mic.
I'm going to dispel one of these rumors have been chewing at me for the last 50-some years with the Roundball Classic. On the floor, warming up, was a kid named Kelvin Murphy.
Yeah.
And he was shooting 30-footers and like swish. Yeah. I was actually standing pretty close to him. I was as bad as he and the big as he was. So all these years, me and then son, who was it? The Benai Barit tournament we went to the next day in Harrisburg, and you brought Kelvin. We flew up there.
Allentown, John. Allentown.
Oh.
Wow. And then
and Sammy Iacino was down the other side.
Wilkinsburg.
The little kid from Farrell.
Wow.
So, that's true.
Excellent.
But Kelvin Murphy turned the game around, Chris, in public, because he was unbelievable.
I think he had 38 in that round ball game.
I believe it was. 30s. I don't know the number.
Yeah, something like that.
He was,
And I remember, and again, Sonny, you know, going with you to some of these games, I went to the Niagara game against Pitt and Niagara when Calvin was a freshman. So I watched him play the freshman game. Who knows how many he had. And then he twirled the baton at halftime.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was like a champion baton twirler. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yes, he was.
These are the experiences. You know, I know guys out there, I'm dropping names on. I had such a remarkable childhood, and this man here, Sonny Vaccaro, is a huge part of that.
Amen. Beautiful.
Well, I've enjoyed this, and hopefully we see each other again. But without Las Vegas, Sonny Vaccaro wouldn't be anywhere today. That was the turning point when I just said, Pat and Johnny, let's go to Vegas, for no reason other than I wanted to know how to play poker, really.
Excellent.
All right, Chunks has something to say.
No, with all of that, remember just simply that, like, son, this is almost like 50 years to the day that you dropped me off at the airport in the Ford Belton, because it was 1975, and I said, I'm going to stay, son. He says, okay. So the next day you called me. I said, where's the card? He says, I don't know. He says, it didn't start. So you left my car there. And so with that, son, it's 50 years ago, son.
Oh, my goodness.
Right today that I started in Las Vegas. And you're right. No Michael Gaughan. None of us are here.
That's right.
None of us.
Sonny, thank you.
Thanks
God
so much.
bless you and Pam. And this has been wonderful. We can go on for another few hours.
I know we could, but you know, we got to let him go. I mean,
Well, we'll see him. We'll see you. We look forward to seeing you in person, Sonny.
I can't thank you enough. Really, Sonny, for everything in my life.
All right,
everything in my life, Sonny. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
God bless you and Pam.
Sonny Vaccaro, everyone. Legends.
That's fantastic.
The book, one more time, Legends and Souls, available now wherever you want to get your books. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we got some hoops.
Basketball to talk about.
When we get back here, Sports by the Book.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in. It is Free Throw Friday on Sports by the Book. That was fantastic. If you missed any of it, it's already available. But watch the end of our show and then go back and watch with Sonny Vaccaro. Again, the book is Legends and Souls, available now anywhere. Worth your time to read. Worth your time to listen to what he had to say, guys. That was I was just sitting back and listening to the whole thing.
Well, Jeff, like I said, that's a better interview than he can do anywhere else. Because it's our show. We can do whatever we want. We didn't have to take lunch breaks or ad breaks, or we didn't have to do anything. We just had Sonny talk for, close to an hour.
Close
I guess
an hour.
50 minutes, something like that.
Fantastic.
You're not going to get that anywhere else in the world.
Fantastic.
And
Great.
those things that, like I said, there's a lot of things I left out, the things that Sonny did for me in my life, and I mentioned it off camera. Chrissy, go pick up Quinn Buckner at the airport. Okay. Chrissy, I need you to chauffeur Adrian Dantley around this weekend.
That's so good.
Okay. All right.
By the way, real quick, I wish Jimmy was here. Shout out to Warden's Bar in Trafford now as well, with the show on, listening to that as well.
Great. Excellent.
Great.
Yeah.
I hope they're still listening. I'll bet you Sonny and Jimmy's cousin, Jimmy Mastriani, is sitting in there.
Yeah. Well, stick around. Maybe we'll give you some winners and the hoops for tomorrow, too.
So let's, we got a few games tonight that I want to get to
I know.
first.
Well, I don't know if we're going to get to all the games.
Well,
but,
go ahead, buddy.
We have a shot.
Go ahead.
But I want to start, though. Conference tournaments are underway, and we had one conference tournament game today, and I asked you, you're like,
I was working on it. I had other stuff to do
So,
today.
Vincenz, I'll ask you here. People know that the games go under usually in St. Louis for the Missouri Valley. Last year it was two overs the whole tournament.
Yes.
Now this go around, I can't remember a move like this. So books early, they put the numbers up super early last night, had as high as 163.5 on Belmont and Illinois State.
Too high.
You guys opened 157.5.
Too high.
Closed at 151. Final score, 76-63.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, hey, it happens. I mean, you try to.
We never said we're perfect.
There's betting options out there, Jeff. That some people might think that we win every bet. Some people think professionals win every one, but they got the best of it in that one, and it happens. So,
I will say, even at the craziest, like that 12-point move on a total is like an early number originator college football number that gets
or
it.
Even the first couple of weeks of the college basketball season, with almost 360 teams. So yeah, it's hey, and look, you know what else? You get this time of year, teams are a little bit tighter maybe, and that comes into play. Play a little bit more, a little more reserved, conservative, but that one, it got there. Yeah. You pay and move on. Next game.
So the next game, this tournament, by the way, Drake chalk holds in the top of the bracket. Bradley will play Murray State in a little bit, and then Northern Iowa later in the night against Valparaiso.
Drake, dangerous team, Drake.
28-3 now, the dangerous Drake Bulldogs.
Team, yeah.
Win this tournament, you're 30-3, pretty darn impressive anyway.
I love
good
that
squad.
Midwestern basketball, too. I always think those kids are just kind of tough.
Well coached, good team.
Well, it's an interesting one because Vinny and I were talking about it back in November.
Yeah.
Ben McComb comes in from Northwest Missouri State, brings basically the whole D2 team, and haven't missed a beat at a team that's, by the way, won the Missouri Valley the last 2 years anyway.
A very solid D2 team, to your point, Joe. But what does that bring, right? When you get that group together, it's discontinuity, right? And it's not like players are coming in, they're freshmen their first year, or they're transferring in. You have that continuity, which when it comes with a solid coach, it's a really good combination.
Moving to tonight, some regular season ball here real quick. I just want to bring up VCU first. They host Dayton. It's not the most attractive game on the slate, but up to 10 now here from 9.5.
Up to 10.
VCU should be an at-large team, even if they don't win in Brooklyn next week. I'm just curious for both of you guys, just end of regular season, a team in these, again, A10's not like a small, but it is a mid-major.
Mid-major, yeah.
But
they've been well represented
over the years. Yeah. But this VCU team, kind of just sliding under the radar this year because of the lack of strength around them in that league.
Well, everybody's also focused on the Power 5 schools, not unusual. The smaller, the Mo Valley has started their conference. VCU, I think they'll start getting notice once they start their tournament. Now, they've got to come out of it, though. But they can't leave it to chance, Jeff, because there's also a lot of pressure or a lot of thought out there. Can we get more than one school from some of the smaller conferences, right? So here you have a mid-major conference that if VCU goes out in the first round, their season might end.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, so it even though that typically the A10 puts more than one team in there, they may be on the outside looking in if they go out too early.
I think a lot of these teams, just they leave the potential to get screwed, and I hope they don't really, because I think that makes it a better tournament.
Good point.
Listen, we don't need to see a 500 team out of the Big Ten or the SEC, and I know they're good, and it's not the question, but they've had their chance. Let's give a team like VCU or Drake or whoever we're talking about. Let's give them the chance to see. Let's see how good they are. When the year of COVID, the team I wanted to see was East Tennessee State. That was. You remember them? I mean, that was a really good team. I was anxious to see how good they were going to be.
That was a team that probably deserved the 9 seed. That probably would have got a 12. They won the SoCon earlier that weekend. Of course, we all know what happens.
I was looking forward to betting them. They were a 12. God bless. I was going to take a nice price. And, of course, we'll never know what would have happened. The coach moved on. Where did he go to?
That's Forbes. He's at Wake and has not recaptured the same success.
Well, I mean, that happens too.
To Sonny's point, how the committee, the tournament is probably going to expand. It's only a matter of time, before it does. So that will help exactly what we're talking about.
Well, let's go to tonight. Another game tonight, and it's Illinois and Purdue in the Big Ten. This is the last regular season game for both of them. Both of these teams well on their way to the NCAA tournament. Seeding in the Big Ten tournament. Purdue is currently in a 3-way tie with Wisconsin and Maryland.
Yeah.
Both of those teams will be Wisconsin will be a big favorite tomorrow, and so will Maryland for that matter.
Yep.
But here you go. Illinois finally looked like the team we kind of expected most of the year. They went to Ann Arbor and drilled Michigan last Sunday. Purdue snapped the 4-game losing streak with 2 emphatic home wins their last 2 times out. 159 and 4.5-point favorites at home. The Illini in this one, Chris.
Looks a little high to me. My
4.5.
numbers come a little bit lower. But again, I'm just really getting started. I got a week to catch up, but
Plenty of time.
like I said, I really trust like the numbers and all that. I wouldn't if I was out there betting, I wouldn't be going all in on any of my plays. But I just do think that number looks a little bit high.
For what it's worth, Ken Palm has this a Illinois 2-point victory at 80-78, so the total's basically right on.
Well, Purdue's really owned this matchup the past 3 seasons, right? I mean, they got 5 straight wins in this matchup, so I think this game is probably a bit more important for Illinois. Honestly, the way they've played the last month. So, but again, the game, from 3.5, went back and forth between 3.5 and 4, now up to 4.5. I'm not real surprised that they bet Illinois.
We'll give Illinois some credit. After getting eviscerated by Duke in Madison Square Garden, they won their last 2 games by 20 apiece.
Good.
So, good bounce back after getting embarrassed.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the few games before that, they were 21-point loss in Wisconsin, lost by double figures at home to Michigan State. So, nice little bounce back for Illinois. I tend to agree with you, though, Chris. A little bit high at that 4.5.
It's a little bit high.
Even though this could be, take a phrase from our friend Wes Reynolds for a second, could be happy action fun time here. Might be an over game. Again, I know technically Purdue could still get a bye, but Maryland's going to be double digits tomorrow. Wisconsin's going to be double digits tomorrow. It is an uphill climb for Purdue to get that bye in the Big Ten tournament.
Who gets a bye?
Top double
4?
bye, I should say.
Yeah.
Top 4 will go to the quarter. Will go to the quarters right away. And Purdue, they're looking at the 5 seed, so they'll have 5 or 6, and not much of a difference, at least in that round 1 game in the Big Ten. I think all those teams 9 through 14 are pretty darn similar in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah.
Unlike the SEC, where you could be playing team number 13 and you have yourself a dogfight this year. All right, Mountain West, 2 games. Colorado State's kind of flown under the radar here. They're up to 2nd in the league now, playing some great basketball. 7 out of 8 they've won.
Yeah.
Now they play Boise. I don't know. I'm always kind of in the camp when Boise gets into these bigger games, they kind of don't play as well. They usually find a way to sneak into the tournament, then go out in round 1.
They win games you don't expect them to win. They lose games that you don't expect them to lose, right? Oftentimes.
And there are some 6s available. I would gravitate to taking 6 with Colorado State, but I don't know. Colorado State could fall out of the 2 with a loss. Boise could move up to the 3 seed with a win here in this game in the Mountain West.
Game got as high as 7 earlier today, so it's gone up and down the ladder here. So
my numbers came to 4, and again, I wouldn't put too much stock in them, but that is what they came to.
The other game in the Mountain West, UNLV, well, they're betting on the other side in the game now, up to 12.5 here on New Mexico. New Mexico technically already has won the league, a regular season, number 1 seed for the postseason because they swept Colorado State.
Yes.
So they can't fall out of the 1. It would be an outright championship with a win tonight for New Mexico. As we know, they want to play fast. UNLV wants to grind the game to a halt. So that's why you see a lower than usual 148 in the New Mexico game, Vinny.
Well, the Lobos, right? They won here in a close game at Thomas and Mack 75-73. Jeff, does that sound right? It was
a 2-point game. Yeah.
So, look, the Rebels have played. They played better lately. They've got 6 wins in their last 7 games. They've covered 5 of those games. They did win in the pit in this matchup a year ago. So obviously they're looking for an improved seeding position as well. New Mexico has already clinched, as you mentioned, but I'm not surprised either that the money has shown here for the hometown Lobos. I think as we get closer to tip off, which is 7:00 Pacific time, I think maybe somebody if they sniff 13, I think we'll see some Rebel money.
UNLV locked into the 6 in the conference
I
tournament.
think they're not. They can't improve to the. They
I
can't.
think they're two back with one to go.
Yeah, well,
so,
then
they'll play.
But they're looking for momentum, right?
They'll play
and
Air
to stay
Force,
hot.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what they're going to be in a game at Thomas and Mack? They're going to be double digits against Air Force,
definitely,
to say the very least, in that first round game. All right, we go to tomorrow, and we start with a big one in the Big East in Milwaukee.
That's a good
St. John's already has the 1 seed and the regular season crown wrapped up in the Big East. Marquette, I played a really high-end first half against Connecticut earlier in the week, and then UConn comes from behind, wins that game. And now we don't have any numbers officially. There are some numbers starting to populate the market, though.
See?
It's a close game. I got Marquette maybe 1.
I got Marquette 1.
Marquette 1.5 is what I'm seeing right now. These final regular season games can be a little bit tricky.
They can. Especially a team that's wrapped it up.
Exactly. Your numbers at this point are as sharp as they're going to be because of all the data points, and there's no other factors going in with conference tournaments and such. And you just said the second one. Team that already got wrapped up.
Yeah.
Marquette's coming off a loss in a game that, quite frankly, I thought they probably should have won, even as a small underdog. I would only lean to the home team here, but again,
they're going to get the money here.
Yeah,
they're going to get the play. I think this game will probably go up. I think the 1.5 is probably more like it. Maybe will go higher. St. John's won at the Garden last month. What was it? I think there were 2.5 point favorites in that game, and they won the game.
Won by 6.
So it was a good game, and a game again where the Johnnies really banked and capitalized on their rebounding.
I will say this real quick with Marquette. So this will be the 6th game against the other top 3 teams in the Big East: Creighton, St. John's, and UConn. They're 1-4 against the better teams in the league so far.
Say that again.
Marquette is 1-4 against St. John's, Creighton, and Connecticut this year.
Oh, okay.
So they've struggled to play up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So far this year in Big East play, and against the rest of the league, they lost at Villanova when Villanova made that little run when it looked like they had a shot before. Again, the wheels came off again, and they lost at home against Xavier during that weird pocket where DePaul should have beat them in Chicago, and DePaul almost didn't cover that game in overtime, at least for a little bit before closing the gap and covering with these. All right, moving along. Arkansas and Mississippi State. Mississippi State already lost to one bubble team this week. That was one of the more ridiculous endings I've seen this year, where Texas basically did everything in their power to blow that game in regulation. Fortunately for them, got it to overtime, found a way to win the game in OT. Arkansas, we have talked about the Hogs all year long. You have no idea what you're getting on a game-weekly basis. You could get what we got on Tuesday against Vanderbilt, where scored 90 points, looked like a legitimate top 15 team in a win at Memorial Gymnasium. Or you get the version that had 27 points with 6 minutes to go against South Carolina. I don't know what to do with this game. The numbers that are out there right now have the Hogs as a short favorite at home in this one with a total of 148.5. There's some variety in the market depending on onshore versus faraway places. The faraway places have this pick'em.
Ken Palm had 3, and I kind of like that number.
Yeah, and Arkansas 1.5 is what DK has here in the States.
I think you'll see Arkansas come the favorite here. It's a close to a pick. Actually, from a power rating standpoint, Mississippi State's the better side. But here again is my theory on desperate teams, right? And, and Arkansas certainly needs the win more so than Mississippi State.
So Lenardi today put out a new bracket. Arkansas right now is team number 64, which puts them on the right side of Dayton and the right side of the bubble. Where does
he have Mississippi State?
Mississippi State, I think, was an 8 seed this morning. Let me just double check that. They were an 8 seed.
That's my point there. And perception is reality to a lot of folks.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Mississippi State already has them playing Gonzaga in round 1. They would be an underdog against Gonzaga, and if they somehow won that game, they would be a nice size underdog against Houston in round 2.
So they're an 8, you said?
8.
8. Like I said, that 8-9 game though is always 8-9 winner is always tough.
Hey, if Gonzaga, I will
They
tell
could
you,
beat Gonzaga.
if Gonzaga gets a 9 or an 8 seed, I'm not going to be happy if I'm that 1 seed, even though should handle the business. But
They throw that funky zone at you. You know what I mean? It's it's in the WCC. You can see it every year and all that, but then it's tough to prepare on 1 day's rest. You win your opening game if you're a 1 seed. You win the 1 game like you're supposed to. Now you're playing the 8-9 winner, and that team has just like I said, that funky zone, and then it's creates some problems.
I will say real quick with Gonzaga, when we'll talk about this all tournament week, Gonzaga's made it to 9 straight Sweet 16s. If they make it somehow this year, and they're going to have an uphill
tough.
battle, they will be the record for most consecutive Sweet 16.
Who has the record? North Carolina?
Duke and Carolina.
Okay.
Both have that. Carolina from 85 to 93, and then Duke from 98 to 06.
Okay.
So there you go on that front with those. All right, we go to the SEC again. Missouri taking on Kentucky. Final regular season game for both teams. Missouri's defense has disappeared over the last 2 games. Probably should have held on against Vandy, losing overtime. Oklahoma shoots over 60%, beats Mizzou earlier in the week. Cats, pretty dominant earlier in the week against an overmatched LSU team after Auburn won in Lexington for the first time in nearly 30 years over last weekend.
Yeah. 1998?
Yeah. Vinny, Chris, numbers I'm seeing for this one are 4.5 with Missouri.
That's what Ken Palm had 4, and I thought that looked a little high.
It's
What do you have, Vinny?
I have a 3, Missouri 3, but you brought up their defense has not been what it was a month ago, and Kentucky's healthier now as well. Although the Cats haven't won here since 2019.
Yeah, that's surprising in its own right.
Just so you have some opposites.
Can I ask you real quick one other thing?
Yeah.
What do you make the total in this game? Because you're dealing with Kentucky, who's a top 5 offense in the country.
Yeah.
Defense is 69th, which is fine. It's just not elite. Or excuse me, I was backwards there. That was Missouri's numbers.
Ranking.
Missouri was 5 in offense and 69th in defense, so good. Kentucky is 6th in offense and 56th in defense, so pretty similar offenses. Kentucky's defense slightly better at the moment.
I haven't put my totals together yet. No excuse though. Probably, I don't know. I think I'd start at
167?
150. No, I'm going to say 158 and go from there. Maybe 165.
Okay.
What do you see?
168?
I'm low.
Yeah. I'll say this.
They come down.
We'll get to Auburn and Alabama in a little bit.
Oh,
there are some of these paces with these SEC teams. You can just bet the pace, and you're going to get there on a good chunk of these numbers. All right, let's go Wisconsin and Penn State next. Bucky Badger with a win will get themselves a double bye in the Big Ten tournament. Penn State can't go. They're done. They're out.
They're done.
They're done. It does not matter.
They started promising too.
They don't do well in Madison.
No, they do not. 12.5 is what I'm seeing on this game, and a total of 155.5. I kind of like that total over for what I just said. What effort are you going to get out of Penn State here defensively? Offensively, they could have a good offensive game. Yeah. We know Wisconsin's efficient as hell, and they just had a really bad performance on the road against Michigan State last weekend. It would be over at only here for me. I don't want to lay points because, again, I don't want them to get out of Penn State. They could show up because of the final game of the year, or they could get totally blasted and just not bother being there, even though they're there in actuality.
Yeah, I hate betting those situations. It's tough.
Favorite's going to draw the money here.
Yeah, I'd believe it. Could we see up to 15? Or is that too much?
I made the game 13.5, so.
Yeah, Ken Palm has 13. I thought a little lower, but, that's strictly numbers, no situational effect on that.
Here's another weird situational one. Kansas State, who has still one of the more perplexing victories of the college basketball season earlier this year against their opponent tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Remember, they went to Hilton and blasted Iowa State. beat them by 19 as a 16.5-point underdog. Don't see that every day. Iowa State getting healthier. And we talked about this last week. Now, the game earlier in the week was one of the better games in a college basketball season.
The BYU game?
The BYU game, where
Great
BYU gets up by, where, first off, it was 2-0 with 14 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah. It was it was a scrum.
It was 2-0. And the game zoomed over because of double overtime. And even in regulation, it got close to getting over. BYU wins in double overtime. First power conference team in over 20 years to win a game with 29 turnovers.
Whoa.
Yes.
So,
That's a lot of turnovers.
Sure is. But here you go, Vinny. Weird situational spot for Iowa State. I'm curious what you guys make this number with those weird situational stuffs going on, too.
I had it 5.5.
Okay.
What do you see?
I made it 4.
7.5 is what I see.
7.5.
Wow.
It's too,
So
Iowa
I thought that
State.
was-
Wow.
Iowa State's. They've lost 3 or 4 games. They've lost 7 conference games. They have not played consistent.
They have not.
In the last month compared to what they did previously, where they were an absolute one of the top. I had them as one of the top 8 contenders. I don't know, but not the way they're playing now. I mean, like you said, they forced 29 turnovers the other night and lost.
It's almost hard, almost impossible. Well, that's that I said. It's almost impossible.
So.
Yeah. I don't know what this is. Such a bizarro situational spot, right? The other thing is too. So Big 12, everybody goes to Kansas City. Top 8 don't have to play on day 1. Kansas State with a win, they could move up.
Okay, yeah.
And not have to play Colorado on day 1, and again, they're going to be they're going to be triple digits to win the tournament in Kansas City, but your route gets significantly easier playing one last game.
Sure, absolutely.
Granted, I think if they played Houston, they might be lucky to score 50 points in that game, but a lot of talent on this Kansas State team. We talked about it all year. A big underachiever, just have missed in the portal, and that's going to happen with some of these teams where they spend big, they don't hit. We saw with Florida State in football. Obviously not as extreme on this one, but boy, we'll see how it goes in KC next week. Speaking of a team that did hit in the portal, Louisville, in the midst of look, Rick Pitino probably is going to win National Coach of the Year, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Pat Kelsey has as good of an argument as anyone.
He's in second place. He's 1 game behind Duke. He's tied with Clemson for.
Gonna win. If they win this game against Stanford, they're 18-2 in conference play.
Wow.
They won 10 games total the last 2 years.
This is a team that is very dangerous from the perimeter, and this a good club. Kentucky gets all the publicity coming out of the Bluegrass State, and I think Louisville, and I know they beat Louisville this year, but it was a close game. Yep. I have to tell you, this Louisville team is a good club. They're dangerous.
And Vinny, what did you make this one?
14.
Chris?
12.
Your number's closer, 12.5. What we got on this one. Stanford's a reasonable basketball
Stanford's not
team.
bad, yeah.
Reasonable
They're not
team.
awful. They're 7. I mean, they're what are they?
The 7th in the league. Yep.
Yeah, what am I looking at? 11-8.
11-8, right?
Yeah, they're not bad.
They're okay. Again, this is the thing with the ACC this year. Duke obviously is in a class of its own. They're in a class of their own nationally. I mean, them and Auburn and Houston are pretty well separated
they're
from everybody else.
Number 3.
Could be hard for them not to be number 1 seeds.
I mean, Auburn and Duke are locks, regardless of what happens. Houston, if they bow out,
they are. Yeah,
I think they should be, but we'll see. And then Alabama, Florida probably vaulted themselves for good with that win at Tuscaloosa earlier in the week. But boy, the ACC falls off after those top 3, to say the very least, even though Carolina's going to have a big opportunity if they want to get on the right side of the bubble this weekend, which we'll get to in a little bit. All right, going to Knoxville next. Tennessee in action here.
Off the loss at Ole Miss the other night at the end.
Yeah,
close game.
Humongous one for Ole Miss. They play cocky here in this one, though, and this is a nice little get yourself right spot here for the Tennessee Volunteers, Vinny.
16.
I made it 16.
15.5, right on it.
Yeah.
Right on it. Total is only as low as 128. in this game, which makes a lot of sense. I still don't know how to read the Vols. I'm still concerned about their offense in a big situation. But last weekend against Alabama, they looked done. Somehow managed to win the game of regulation despite being down 4 with 25 seconds left.
Yeah, no, it's speaks to the SEC, right? It's the best conference in the country. They're going to have the most bids, and rightfully so. Every game is a huge game. That's what's going to also make them better prepared than a lot of schools from the other conferences. No doubt about it.
Barnes gets knocked a lot. I'm not sure that's totally fair.
I thought last year was the year they had to do it, personally, because Connect, like...
He's missed a couple years, there's no doubt.
They ran into Edie. What are you going to do? And Edie, I mean, if that Elite Eight game, Edie played one of the better games you're ever going to see from anyone.
That's a good point.
But, boy, Dalton Connect was such a good player. And Lanier, who was supposed to be a replacement, has shown glimpses, but just not the same dude that Connect was a year ago. The game in the SEC, though, tomorrow is Iron Bowl 2.0.
There we go, yeah.
Second time we're doing this in about a month. Auburn, of course, went to Tuscaloosa and won at Bama the first go-around.
By 9? Right?
Yeah, and really was in control, other than that small little run in the second half where Bama got the game tied, had the ball, Sears missed an open look, and then after that, Auburn pushed it right back to 8.
Yeah.
Alabama started to show some cracks over the last few weeks where... as good as they are, as good as their guard play is, as good of a coach as Oates is, their defense has not...
It disappears.
It disappears for too long of portions.
Too many stretches.
And as we've talked about with them, they're down to 103rd in the country shooting to 3.
Yeah.
They need to realistically be a top 50 team in the country to really make as big of a push as you would have hoped for this team.
I don't know if you can score... Let me put it this way. I don't... to think you can win the NCAA tournament 6 games by just being a team that shoots around 100, scores about 100 points a game. You've got to be able to defend, and you've got to be able to defend more consistently. So that's, to your point, Jeff. I think that's certainly something that they have to try to figure out.
I will say this: the numbers available right now, Vinny. What do you make this?
I made Auburn 8. I didn't make them too high.
I got 8.
7.5, right there, right there. Total's 178.5. Which my rule on Bama games
over
pass.
Chris, I know the old. I know your old saying, like, if I made the game 500, I wouldn't like.
Yeah,
but. For realistic numbers, it's hard to make the number high enough in Bama games for me to look at even consider the under. And this is another one. Again, this is how good this Auburn team is. This is the best the SEC has ever been.
Oh,
period.
Yeah.
They clinched the conference 1 seed in the regular season with 2 games to go.
Mm-hmm.
Almost impossible with how good this league has been this year. Even with the loss earlier in the week at A&M, which was... Again, and our friend Jeff Fogle pointed this out, and Kenny and I flat out missed this earlier in the week. That was as vicious of a sandwich spot as you're ever going to see for Auburn. Clinching the league, winning at Kentucky for the first time in almost 30 years, and then Alabama on the other end.
Yeah.
Well, brutal. But, hey, A&M needed the game.
A&M was, again, a desperate...
Did Auburn have somebody out, a key player out?
I think everyone played.
No, I think everybody played.
Everyone played, but it was just... bad sandwich spot, vicious, more so than anything. All right, Big Ten, Maryland. We talked about them a little bit earlier. A win for the Terps to get a top 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. Northwestern, if we can get the Big Ten standings, because the Big Ten standings have been, it really actually turned out to be kind of comical when it's all said and done. So we know the bottom 3 won't go. Penn State's eliminated. Washington is eliminated. Iowa needs to win on Saturday in order to have a chance. Iowa, by the way, gets Nebraska.
Well, that's who's right ahead of them. Too.
Yeah, so huge game in that one. But look at this slop from 11 through 15. The whole guy, everyone's tied at 7 and 12. Now, everyone will have a chance. No one is clinched. Everyone has a chance to fall out still. Iowa would be the only one, but again, everyone 15 and 11 will be safe if Iowa loses to Nebraska over the weekend. But here you go, Vinny. Northwestern, who, again, lost their best player earlier in the year due to injury. And now I credit to Chris Collins for at least getting them potentially into the Big Ten tournament. Tough matchup, though, against a Maryland team that is beastly inside.
Mm-hmm. I think, I started my number here at 11. I think it might be low.
Oh, wow.
To be honest. So I could see it being higher or going higher.
I had 10.
10.5 is what's out there right now, and that's a DK. And I'm trying to find reasons to take the points in this game, and I just can't get there. More likely than not, because Maryland has been much better at home. Their only home conference loss was that 60-footer by Holloway for Michigan State.
Yes.
Was the only conference home loss. Their only other loss at home was Marquette back on November 15th. So they have been unbelievably good in College Park. So, tough one. Really, again, trying to find any angle in Northwestern.
Home court.
I just can't get there.
Home court more of a factor in college basketball, just like it is in college football, right? Than the pros.
Mm. And that's close to, with how Maryland's played this year, that's close to 5 at home this year for the Terps.
It's one of the better ones.
It's close this year. I wouldn't say every year for them, but they've been that good at home so far this year. All right, bubble game. Indiana, Ohio State. Now, right now, Joe Lunardi, and again, remember, Indiana cannot wait to get Mike Woodson out of town. They can't wait.
Oh, I know.
He's not returning unless even if they don't win. Even if they win the championship, he may not return. As of right now, Lunardi has Ohio State as team number 67. So nope. I have that backwards. Indiana is 67.
I was going to say the other way around, right?
Indiana is 67, and Ohio State is 63. So, right on the cusp for both of them.
Yeah.
I would.
Well, Bloomington's been a very tough spot for the
Buckeyes.
Buckeyes here in hoops, right? Buckeyes win at Columbus by a point a month ago, right? No, month and a half ago. I think it was in January. This is a close game. Indiana won as my number.
Chris?
I made a pick.
I don't know what the heck to do with this game. There's no numbers out on this yet.
No.
So
I follow a couple Indiana writers on Twitter, and you're right. They cannot wait to get rid of Woodson. I mean, there's so much animosity there.
So there's one offshore that has it right now, and it has Indiana too, which seems.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I know what Vinny's saying. Ohio State's had a lot of trouble there, but boy, I don't know.
Yeah, if it came pick, I think I'd take Indiana. I'm not interested in laying 2, though.
Yeah,
no way if that ends up being the number for that one. Here's another one with a historically great home court advantage, but this team's lost 3 games at home this year, which just does not happen with the Kansas Jayhawks. It does not happen. They lose last weekend against Texas Tech in a game where Tech got a big Kansas game all the way back, and Tech found a way to win at the end. We'll say if you're a Kansas backer, you kind of like what you saw on Monday night. They were in the game the whole way against Houston.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a pretty routine cover at 9.5 the whole way. You never really were in danger.
That was a big game for us. We needed that.
Yeah.
I didn't watch too many games this year. I watched that one.
Yeah, really. I think Kansas only got down 8 once. It was really just in the game the whole way. Kansas is in unfamiliar territory in conference stand. They're 7th. Last year they were the 6th seed, which was the lowest seed that Self ever got in the conference, and they look to potentially shatter that this year. They could even go lower if things get weird behind them. Arizona, we talked about them.
Playing better.
Playing much better. Bad start in non-con. Easy tournament team looking at a 4 or 5 seed right now. Vinny, what do you make this year? Because, again, it's normally Fog Allen is the biggest home court advantage in the country. It is not this year, though. It has not been
this year. I've got Kansas 3 in this game.
Okay, Chris?
I got Kansas 1.
Split it down the middle, guys.
2?
Yeah, split it down the middle. Okay. I will say, if this was a short money line price, like we're talking sub $1.50, it's an automatic on Kansas for me in this. automatic. I think this is a brutal.
Well, it should be if
I think
if
it'll
it's
be less than
two.
150.
If it's two, if you're seeing two out there, then
Yeah.
it's
Right.
not.
It should be
it's under
$1.35, $1.40.
Yeah, it's
per
under
play with Kansas.
$1.50.
Yeah, if you get assuming that the prices are, I know you guys will have the right price, but I would very happily.
We won't know the right price till the game's over.
That's true. But this feels like Kansas wins the final home game of the year. At least you would think. But again, who the hell knows with this Kansas team? They've been
I'm a bit
all
of
over
a
the place.
Kansas fan. I can wear the shirt every once in a while. I kind of like them, but man, they've had a tough
Big
year.
group comes here every year from Kansas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Like I said, I kind of root for Kansas. I like Self and, kind of root for that program. Root for them in football, too. But, boy, they've had a rough year.
Vinny, I want to ask you real quick about one other team that we're not going to talk about the game, but in a tournament that's here next week, the Big West,
Okay.
UC San Diego is all the way into the top 35 of Ken Palm.
Talk about under the radar.
Yeah. You don't have to look at your numbers, but they play tomorrow. They play UC Davis.
UC Davis
they're
at
going
UC
to be
Davis.
probably 15 or 14 against UC Davis. Just be on the lookout for that team. I just wanted to bring them up.
That's
real
a fair
quick, because
point,
they
Jeff.
are
That's a
a
good point.
team. They didn't cover last night. Throw that out there, but they were also laying 22. But they are a team where if they make the dance, when you're looking at potential bets, potential brackets, whatever you do, be on the lookout for the Tritons if they happen to get there.
Height going to be a problem for them? Size, maybe?
They're small. That's the
Yeah.
only thing. They don't
Yeah.
have anyone over 6'7" in the rotation.
Just saying, that
is the one thing.
that's the one
you
thing
are
you
right.
want to keep an eye on.
We go next to Virginia Tech and Clemson. Clemson is just talk about going under the radar.
Yeah.
They beat Duke.
They're tied with Louisville, aren't they?
Yeah, they're one game.
They're one game behind.
If they didn't blow that game to Georgia Tech, they'd be looking at the 1 seed in the ACC right now. Va-Tech has been just really not any good this year, even though they're safely in the ACC tournament. Vinny, how big are we going in this game?
19.
Chris?
18.
Yeah, 18 and a half. 18 and a half.
Yeah.
I agree. The only problem with laying a big number with this Clemson team is they want to grind. They want this game
What's
to be
the total?
So I see 138 and a half, which
it's pretty low.
actually feels a little bit high, actually, in all honesty.
Virginia Tech hasn't won here in 6 years.
Surprised it's been that recent, honestly. All right, moving along. Florida got that huge win earlier in the week at Tuscaloosa. What a win for the Gators, who they have the two best road wins in the country this year. Them and Auburn are the ones who've won in Tuscaloosa, and Florida, of course, won at Auburn. I mean, that is the best duo of road wins in the country. And now they play Ole Miss, and this is I just think this is a ghastly spot for Ole Miss coming off that win earlier in the week, Vinny, like you said.
Talk about emotion, right?
Yeah.
And how emotional, games are, and can you ride the highs and overcome the lows? This game, I made this game 12, and I could see it going higher.
I got 11 and a half.
Right now, I see 11 and a half. Florida's only home loss was that game against Missouri back in January, where we didn't really know what the Tigers were at that point. The game Florida got down 17, ended up losing by 1, but that's the only home loss. Florida's resume is as impressive as everyone. It just kind of feels like it's not getting the proper due at this point, even though Lenardi does have them as the fourth one.
I was going to say they're going to be
really?
a 1 or a 2.
You got them on 1?
Depending on how things shake out in the conference tournament.
I mean, their losses are at Kentucky, Mizzou, at Tennessee, and at Georgia.
The Georgia one is
Georgia one's a little bit, but that was a desperate Georgia
tough
team.
spot. Tough spot. Georgia's tough out.
All right, now we get to the Ryan McCormick game here. Duke and North Carolina.
That's all.
Doesn't matter the records, right?
So you can you can actually throw the record books out if you want. But we know the craziness we can get in this rivalry. North Carolina right now, Joe Lenardi has them as the second team out, so team number 70 right now.
Oh wow! Okay.
They just won. They've won 6 in a row, right? I mean, they're trying to play their way in.
So I don't know what to do with this game because Duke's got to be double figures,
10.
even on the road.
10.
I got a 12
10 and a half.
Carolina's desperate.
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk myself into Carolina here, but I know the first matchup was completely non-competitive with these two teams. Completely non-competitive.
17, right? In Cameron.
And quite frankly, Vinny, 17 was light with how that game went.
Sure enough.
Man, but boy, you see 11. By the way, it's 11 and a half that's out there.
I got 12.
Like, if you see 11 and a half, 12 in this matchup, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's
at home.
At the Dean Dome.
Chapel
Like,
Hill.
it's one thing if it's like Duke at like the home team's favored by 12. All right, whatever. Great
That's
home
bulletin
court.
board material.
I'll probably be on North Carolina. I'm sure I'll regret it about 9 minutes into the game, but I will be on Carolina if I'm getting double figures
Steer
like I
clear of
expect
the
to.
studio tomorrow.
Oh, well. Steer clear of whatever of the couch by the end of the night, Vinny.
Oh wait, that's a 3 o'clock. Yeah, if that was a morning game, you'd be pacing in here.
Pacing back and forth, to say the least. All right, Tempe, we go next. Arizona State actually stayed in the game against Arizona a lot longer than you would have expected the other night.
Rivalry game, right? In-state rivalry game.
In a game that only had 213 points in regulation, by the way, guys.
But did you see the first matchup between these two teams? It was 111-106.
So this was
Texas Tech.
So this, remember, if you remember this game, it was the sleepiest spot imaginable for Texas Tech the first go around. It was a midweek game. Texas Tech had just lost at Arizona after going on that huge run.
Right.
And Arizona State probably should have won that game 5 or 6 separate times and just didn't do it in that 111-106 game. Now the Tide's here in Tempe. Vinny, Chris, what do you guys have for this one on the road for Texas Tech here in the state of Arizona?
9.
10.5 is what I see, which I think is too much.
That seems a little high.
Even against the 15th best team in the conference.
Ken Palm has 8.
I think that's too low.
Oh, I made it 9, so.
Interesting. 150.5 the totals. This might be like one of those when they zig, you zag games. Might not mind the under here in this one if this goes a little bit higher. If it goes a little higher.
111-106.
Yeah.
Just
a lot
saying.
of points. A lot of
First
points
meeting.
with Jens. Houston and Baylor here, or actually, sorry, not just yet on Houston and Baylor. USC and UCLA real quick. Trojans are in that mess right now, trying to make sure they make the Big Ten tournament. UCLA has just kind of been there all year. We've talked about their West Coast versus non-West Coast splits this year. They, other than that goofy loss to Minnesota, and they got handled by Michigan. That's it. Those are the only 2 West Coast losses for UCLA out at home. What do you guys make this? Because this USC team's kind of underachieved. Again, they've dealt with injuries this year as well.
Well, UCLA beat them at
Galen.
Right.
6.
By 6.
Yeah.
I have UCLA 11 in this game.
Jeez, I got a 9.5.
All right, so this one is 9.5 from faraway places.
Yeah.
Seems right. Probably look to lay it, honestly. Even with a USC will also know at this point if they need the game or not. So I think this is good at UCLA in Pauley to at least get this one done. Oklahoma, look at this one. Bubble game. Oklahoma, Texas. Might be the most important bubble game of the entire day tomorrow.
Think so?
Well, Oklahoma and Texas right now, team 69 and 71.
That's a bubble game.
That is as bubbly as we get. Winner that game might be in the bracket according to Joey Brackets by the end of the day. I just see Oklahoma. If they lose this game, I can't put a team in 5-13 in the conference unless they make a run in Nashville. I'm sorry. Just should not be doing that. Vinny, what do you make this one? Texas at home. First matchup between these teams. Of course,
77-73
was a tight game that Texas won in Norman the first go around.
So Texas has pretty much dominated this matchup, right, head to head. I want to say they've won like 7 or 8 in a row, but I don't think you can make it too high. I think 3.
I got a 3.5.
3.
And like I said before, Texas in this one 4.5. I don't know. I don't like. I don't think Oklahoma's that good, and I think Texas is very poorly coached. So that is the perfect recipe to not bet the game, at least for me. Curious though, that you find some in-game opportunities on this one. Baylor and Houston. Are you ready for? Wait a second. Is this right? 10 p.m. in Waco?
Come on, really?
No.
Oh, yeah, it's 8 p.m. here.
There we go. Oh, no, that's.
I've got
oh,
seven.
wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second.
I've got.
It's 9 o'clock in
I was
Waco.
going to say 9 o'clock.
We're jumping the gun on daylight savings here, which is overnight. Sorry, Wager Talk on that one. So I was going to say 10 o'clock in Waco would be a fun one.
Don't we still have like a day and a half? Isn't it tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's tomorrow night.
Yeah.
What time are we in? What time is it?
4.5 is what I see on this game, fellas, with Houston favored on the road in this one. That feels a little short, doesn't it?
I made it 6.
6.
Yeah, it feels short. A weird spot for Houston, but still, that feels.
Yeah, that's still Houston, though.
Houston by 11. Baylor's playing a little better.
Yeah.
Baylor's a tough out.
Houston didn't look too good the other night against Kansas. I like them 6. I like
Baylor is really talented. It just has not worked for one reason or not, injuries or just inconsistent play. They've won 2 in a row. I mean, for whatever reason, they always struggle with TCU. They won that game by 3 the other night, but getting the season split with the Horned Frogs. All right, last one. BYU and Utah.
In-state rivalry here.
In-state rivalry game.
That's
BYU.
still the holy war, or is that just football?
I think you can count it for both.
Okay.
Utah, again, Craig Smith got fired midstream here, and new coach has already been hired at Utah as well. And obviously not coaching these games will be fully to go for next season. BYU's playing as well as anyone in the country right now.
They are.
What a turnaround from a team that was a pure bubble team.
They could have folded multiple times
easily
the other night against
What was the
Iowa
one
State.
team? Was that Kansas? They blasted by like 30.
Yes.
Kansas by 38.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Crushed them.
This is a good team and vastly improved through the year.
Dangerous.
Dangerous. I mean, they've won. It was that game in Morgantown where they were 6-6 in the league, haven't lost since 7 in a row, and they're gonna. I would imagine guys make this double figures, right? With this one,
I got a 12.
14, I made it.
cut in half.
13?
13 and a half in the market on this one. Boy, BYU is a freight train right now.
I got to tell you, I made it 12, but I'd have trouble betting on Utah.
I agree with him. Agree with you 100% on that, to say the very least. Shout out to the chat, our friends in there, Bob Custer enjoying the show up from Reno. Scott appreciates the great insight from Vinny, Chris, Jimmy, and heard this morning our friend Kaluch as well, who we had in the morning.
Good
as
job
well.
by Kaluch.
And then Tacoma J50, one amazing stories by some of the most entertaining gents we could be privileged to hear. So we appreciate all the great feedback.
Thank you.
From the first hour and this hour of the show here today.
What was that note I wrote to you guys? Quote my note. This is gold. Let it go on forever. And that was with Sonny. And, I said, really, it'll be better than any interview you'll ever see. Not that me and Vinny are such great interviewers. We just let Sonny talk. And he talked for about 50 minutes.
Just wanted it to be about him.
Yeah,
it was wonderful.
Kenny Bania might want This Is Gold back, though.
Let him have some soup and he'll be happy. Don't worry about it.
Is it a meal? Save that for a different time. All right. We appreciate everyone watching here. We're back tomorrow morning at 8:30. A lot of college basketball games to get to tomorrow morning here on the show. And, hey, we're ever so closer. Less than 10 days away from Selection Sunday. Of course, the party upstairs for the first 3 days of the tournament will be in full action. Free parking, free to park your butt up there for 12 hours a day.
Best food prices in town. Alcohol prices.
Meatball subs and pulled pork. We're all in good shape.
Yeah. Double up
there. Double up, yes.
Listen, you have one for lunch, one for dinner.
Yeah, you know it.
They got the nice. They get the good muffins up there too. I mean, like they have. Let's see what they. So if you need breakfast, nice muffin arrangement. Little pulled pork for lunch, little meatball sandwich for dinner.
Get it all done.
Get it all
perfect.
done. Yeah.
Shout out to the crew: Vince, Jerry, Drew Dog.
Thank you guys,
Mr. McCormick, Sean,
Mr. McCormick. Why? Because he got the Carolina hat on.
He's got to make it official, right?
Okay.
And as always, as well. We will see you again tomorrow morning. For Vinny Magliulo and Chris Andrews, I'm Jeff Parles. And again, the book one more time from Sonny Vaccaro, Legends and Souls, available now anywhere you get your books. We'll see you again next time right here, Sports by the Book.